Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spinner Rack. I'm Mars, and I'm here with my boy.
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
Hey Cal. So one of the issues we want to discuss today is Hercules. He is in one of the most popular mythologies around, the Olympian gods. This is a mythology that I guess almost anyone who's seen anything on TV, read anything in the United States, in Western Europe, or whatever, probably even the world, know who Hercules is. But yet, Hercules is a character in the Marvel universe that just never seemed to have taken off. It seems that Marvel was never able to make this character as popular as Thor. You know, we were never able to mine um, the rich history of the Greek gods. So I'm posing the question to you: why do you think that is? What could have held up them from using someone who's practically he's a demigod since he's half man, half god? What's your take on this?
Well, the reason, four words: Thor, God of Thunder. That's pretty much it.
Why do you say that? Why do you limit it to just that?
Well, when Marvel creates Thor, they understand what they're doing. You don't want to create Hercules. You don't want a Hercules because Hercules was already pretty popular. They had done a bunch of Italian movies with Hercules. I mean, there's the stuff that people would know with the Reeves movies, but the Steve Reeves movies. But there were like all of these things that Hercules versus this, Hercules versus that. You know, son of Hercules, grandson of Hercules. There's a ton of these movies. So people were already, but nobody can own Hercules. Nobody can own Hercules. So if you decide to come out, okay, Hercules from Marvel and such, oh, okay, well, you know, DC or any other comic company can do it, and it was being done. You already had these particular comics out with Hercules. So Thor is like, okay, we can make, you know, Thor is still, anybody can do Thor, but nobody was looking to do it. Okay. And, you know, we can make them our own. We can, you know, have these little um, unique features to the character, and we can go that way. So Thor's more attractive in terms of branding than Hercules is because, like you already said earlier, I mean, you go around the world, everybody has heard of Hercules. You go to Japan, you go to China, you go to the Middle East, you go to Africa, you go to Europe. Everybody, you say Hercules, they may not know the word Hercules, okay? But if you translate it or you go a little bit, oh yeah. Everybody knows Hercules, okay? Everybody knows the character, so it's very hard to. Well, how do we sell Hercules? No, that's pretty hard. No different in DC because with DC, it's like, oh, there's a Hercules there too, which again shows you the problem. Anybody can have a version of Hercules. And when you go to the DC universe, well, the Olympians take a backseat to the Justice League because the Justice League those are the Olympians of the DC universe. So we can't have Hercules coming over here sucking all the air out of the room from Superman, Wonder Woman, that type of stuff. You know, so those characters have a limited and they have a enforced limited appeal outside of whatever they're meant to do in that particular story. Now, Marvel's Hercules is definitely better developed than the Hercules in the DC universe, but you have Thor. If you have Thor, why do we need to have a competing god in Hercules? What does that do for us? You know, we already have a god character in Thor. He sells well, people like him. You know, he's totally recognizable with our company, our universe. Why do we need to have another character that could possibly, you know, suck all the air out of the room of that character? And then where are we at? So that's the thing. It's, somebody had brought this up before with Superman and Captain Marvel in the DC universe. And they're like, why doesn't DC let Captain Marvel, be everything that he can be? You know, he used to outsell Superman. Why don't they like? Why are they afraid of Captain Marvel surpassing Superman? And you say, well, because Captain Marvel was popular for a time, you know, with comics, and he did outsell Superman. But you have to look at exactly what was going on because Superman had two books, and Captain Marvel had like four or five. You know, so that really added up to it. And one book was being published bi-weekly, whereas Superman had one monthly book and one quarterly book. So there was a lot more output with Captain Marvel than there ever was with Superman, and yet Superman was making comparable numbers. So when you take that into account, that's one. But then two, if Superman represents hope in the DC universe, what does Captain Marvel represent? Yeah, and that's a question they can't answer. Like, hey, if you want to surpass this dude, what do you represent? You can't take his spot. He's like one of these characters you can't do it with. So what does he represent? No different with Hercules in the Marvel universe. If we look at what Thor brings to the table overall in terms of character and history for the Marvel universe, okay, well, what does Hercules represent? And if there's no answer, then you know, Thor fills that spot. There's literally no reason for them to put in any extra effort or pump up Hercules just because.
Okay, I mean, that's interesting. They can't. All right, so let's say we can't use Thor, but the whole Olympian, you know, was from Zeus, Ares, another great character. You have him both in the Marvel universe as well as the DC. I mean, does the same thing apply to both Ares and Zeus and any of the others?
Well, see, Ares it doesn't apply to because Ares is a villain. So Ares can be a villain for Thor. Ares can be a villain for Hercules. Ares can be a villain for Wonder Woman or anybody else. So that doesn't apply to Tough. Everybody can just come over and use the characters if they want to use the character as a villain, much like a Doctor Doom. At the end of the day, you can throw that person against anyone. So it's not a big deal because what's his purpose? His purpose is to impede the hero. So it doesn't really matter. He can fight Hercules. He can fight Daredevil. Ares isn't a big deal. The
The
but
DC is
again,
a pretty big deal. He's like one of the main villains of Wonder Woman. I mean, Marvel
yeah,
Ares, he's
and he,
fighting
and he
Frank
loses
Castle.
on a regular basis.
But I mean, I think there's a difference in that the Ares in Marvel, at least the latest incarnation, is he's fighting somebody like Frank Castle, the Punisher. I mean, come on, give me a break, right?
But
Whereas,
Ares in the Marvel universe fought the Sentry, and the Sentry literally just ripped him open. I mean, literally, like grabbed them and then just like ripped them open. You could see his entrails, all of that type of stuff. So that shows you just how important that character is to Marvel.
not enough, clearly. Okay, but again, going back to the whole Olympians, there's a lot to mine there. There are so many gods and goddesses. There's so many stories, and not just limited just to the top ones. You have others. I mean, why not delve more into that world and pick some things?
Because they have their own world, and those stories they can't own them. You
Okay,
can't.
that's the
You
end.
can't. You can't flat out own them. You can't own the Odyssey. You can't own the Iliad. You can't own the Labors of Hercules. You can't own that. That's public domain. You can own your version of it, but why put the effort into that when you can create all new stories with your version of a character that most people don't really even know? And people know Hercules, worldwide. People know Hercules. They don't know Thor, even after the popularity the character has with the Marvel universe. They still don't know, who Thor is. Because if you would ask, hey, did you know Thor is a Norse god? He is. I thought he was an alien. That's probably what you would get at the end of the day. So you've got plenty of room to play around with this guy, where you don't have the same room to play around with Hercules. You don't.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. So basically, it comes down to money, right? If they can own it, they can make coin off of it, and it's worth it. If they can't do it, forget about it.
Well, you got to, I mean, if you put yourself in a business position, I'm going to put X amount of dollars into this character. I mean, think of it from a Disney perspective.
Mm.
Disney doesn't go after characters that they don't think they can brand. So Disney will look at something like Winnie the Pooh. It's like, okay, we're going to come up with our own design. Okay, we'll make our own thing, and this is going to be Disney's Winnie the Pooh. And when Disney does it, they're like, hey, we know there could be a dozen other Winnie the Poohs out there, but ours is going to be the one that people think about when we say Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
Okay, without a doubt. So there are characters you can do that with. Hercules is not one of them. It. Could you imagine you're Marvel and you put in like $200 million, and that's just saying this is a number. You put $200 million into a Hercules movie, okay, to try to say, okay, we're really going to try to invigorate this character, and then you have to compete with every low budget movie maker on the planet who can also make a Hercules movie and beat you to the punch. All the, what do they call those? Not blockbusters, mockbusters, or whatever they call them. And so you're gonna have Hercules this, Hercules that, and just totally water everything down. I think the last time there was a Hercules movie
The
that was
Rock,
coming
right?
to Yeah, The Rock had a Hercules movie, but at the same time that his movie came out, there was a competing Hercules movie. So The Rock's movie Hercules was competing with The Legend of Hercules. The great irony in that, and this was somebody I was talking to, he said, The Legend of Hercules, that was closer to actual Hercules from the myth than The Rock was. And I disagreed. And then when I watched it later, I was like, you know what, he's right. The one with The Rock, it wasn't even Hercules. They were trying to say, oh, he's part of a team and the
Right.
team is helping him and this. And I'm like, who wants to watch this? It started off well too, where they had some nice scenes. I thought, okay, we're gonna get the 12 labors, right? Which they've never done. They've never done that. Okay, they've touched on little things here and there, but nobody's ever made a film where like, okay, we're gonna go through the 12 labors. You get 3 movies out of that, no problem. But the other movie did try to to go with it as much as they could. So even in that instance right there, you're gonna have competing movies. You make a movie for Thor, okay? No. You may have some of these lower budget stuff, but everybody's going to pay attention to the Marvel one. That's the big budget one, and they're not going to be all these other copycats who are going to try to actually get to the theater. No, not going to
So
happen.
I want to just get back to Hercules and popular culture. Here I have the page up for Wikipedia,
Mhm.
um, and man, when you talk about movies, I didn't believe I did it justice. You said 19 Italian movies alone, and all the other type of movies and television shows. I mean, it kind of remind me. I think Kevin Sorbo had a TV show about Hercules in the 1990s.
Yeah, it was very popular, and the only reason why that series stopped is because Kevin Sorbo was having, well, he wasn't public with it at the time, but Kevin Sorbo was having health issues, and that's the only reason why that series stopped at 4 seasons. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would have run. You remember Arnold Schwarzenegger was in a movie Hercules in Manhattan. That was very early. That was very very early in his career. And then all of the time, say a Hercules character will appear. Anytime you see the Greek gods, be it in Percy Jackson. He didn't appear in Percy Jackson with the 2 films that they had, but they do have another series I think going on. But Hercules will pop up. It's just a matter of time. So this character's all over the place. You can't, you know. Do you know how hard you have to work to brand him? Really hard.
I see as I'm looking through this, it's just so much stuff here, and it's even books. He is portrayed in the Percy Jackson Olympians. It says here Hercules is portrayed negatively in the Titan's curse, receiving the help. Um, but and he's in other books. But I'm like, wow, I'm looking at it only from the in terms of comics, you know.
Mhm.
But even then, I've grossly underestimated because he's been in like you said before, he's been in so many things: DC, Dell, Comic
Disney,
yeah,
Disney.
Gold Key. Um, Marvel had him Journey into Mystery. That's a Marvel title.
Hey,
Legend Caps.
don't forget Disney. Disney made their attempt to brand the character. Okay, they did. They did the film. They did a cartoon. They did cartoon series. I don't remember how long the cartoon series lasted.
The animated series, 1997. Yeah, I see it right here.
Yeah, I don't know how long that was, but Disney was like, all right, and this is when Disney was at a high point. They were coming off Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, so they were definitely on a roll when it came to the animated stuff. So they were like, all right, let's have a go with this. And I don't know when's the last time they've used Hercules. He's in their stable, okay, but I don't know when is the last time they do it. But the other cat, put it like this: they did live action versions. They did live action versions of a whole bunch of films. I don't know if we're going to get a Hercules.
Wow, interesting. I mean, look, you were right. They've used them extensively, but it doesn't seem to. There's nothing here that's like a huge hit. Probably the last thing that I remember is the Kevin Sorbo series, like you were just saying before,
Mm-hmm.
where that ran from 95 to 99.
It was very popular. Had a spinoff in Young Hercules.
Yeah,
Uh,
Xena.
I mean, the most I see. It's hard to say the most successful thing because there's so much of it. But the Steve Reeves film, those first 2 films, that really jump started a whole bunch of other Hercules stuff at the end of the day. I don't know if you've ever seen the one with Steve Reeves.
Yeah,
Oh
years.
no, yeah, that's like the template for a lot of films that would come later. You had Steve Reeves, really buff guy, strong. His wife in the movie, very pretty. Okay, very attractive actress, like whose name I can't remember. And that was pretty much it. Tall, handsome, strong guy. You know, pretty girl. He's got to go over here and do some stuff to save her. Hey, everybody loves it, right?
I mean, but we go back to the old stories like the old shows that they used to show before, like Jason and the Argonauts. This is a prime example where Hercules is on a
Hercules, he was in that. He was in that one too.
yeah, and he is like in the crew of champions basically, right? And they're going to go get the golden fleece, but you don't see something as positive and fun and adventurized that you see that would I think would be a good story now to do. And by the way, I don't know if you've heard this that the Odyssey is going to be done by the director of The Dark Knight,
Hmm.
Nolan. That's supposed
Yeah.
to be coming out for 2026, 2027.
Well, there's another Odyssey film already out, so I don't know how.
What?
Yeah, you didn't hear the one with Ralph Fiennes, The Return? That's
Oh,
in theaters.
that's right. That is come out. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, probably, you know what? I must stand correct. They really do seem to be minding it. Just there's not being a huge hit with the audience, I guess. By that sword and sandal look, people are like, that's not something that I really want to go and see. It's probably like a western. It's a pretty niche group, right?
Well, I mean, that really depends because if you judge it by like American money, you mean we're not doing too well. But internationally, these things do pretty well. But
Yeah,
like
Western
what
Europe
was
it
it?
definitely does.
Like the last Tarzan movie. The last Tarzan movie. I don't know how well it did United States, but worldwide, that was like a $400 million movie.
Wow.
And I know they didn't spend 200 million on that film. So people are like, okay, good action. And the biggest problem they have with making a Tarzan movie is like, look, how do we make this movie with this white dude running around in Africa and not offend people? That's pretty much their only problem at the end of the day. But they did it. Everything was respectful, no problem. There wasn't a sequel to it, but it was a successful film. With Hercules,
The Tarzan Disney movie, which seemed to be very successful, especially with the
no,
sound.
no, no. There was a more recent one with Margot Robbie playing Jane.
Okay,
And I forget the guy's name, but he's the son of Alexander Skarsgård.
okay.
I can't remember his name. The tall blonde dude. They made Tarzan blonde in this for whatever reason. Ugh. So you do the Hercules stuff. It wasn't that, put it like this. It was not that the Hercules stuff didn't resonate. It resonated very well. It resonated very well. But when you look at those Italian films, what you can see is, oh, nobody owns this. Nobody owns this. If you look, 19 different films. Don't be surprised if it was 19 different films by 19 different directors. It reminds me of the spaghetti westerns when they would. I mean, literally, these guys were just cranking them out at the end of the day because nobody owns the Wild West. Nobody can own Hercules. Anybody can make a film with it, and I think it's the same thing with Tarzan right now, where the rights to Tarzan in America are still owned by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Uh, his
Still,
estate, I believe so. I believe so because I think Edgar Rice Burroughs did some stuff early on, so the rights are staying right there because he's the creator. He's the creator, and his estate, always owned it. So this is not like he created for someone else, and now the rights can revert back. So he still owns it, but I believe internationally they may have you're able to get away with it because there was somebody they made a Tarzan movie and they were like, no, no, you can't make the Tarzan movie because Edgar Rice Burroughs' estate still owns it. So instead of calling it Tarzan, they just chopped the name in half and called it Zan, but it's still Tarzan. Like it's still Tarzan at the end of the day. They could not put Tarzan on the film, but in the movie, I believe they referred to him as Tarzan a few times.
got
So
it.
that's where it is. So if you want to, you can't make a Tarzan film, but you can make a Jungle Man film who's running around doing exactly what Tarzan would do, and they can't stop you.
Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, thank you. I think we've had a pretty interesting discussion um, regarding Hercules, the Olympians, and the popularity of these type of movies going forward. I mean, I like some of that stuff, and so I would love to see it. Especially, I do remember now that you put in my head Kevin Sorbo and Reeves and some of the popularity that they had there, and the very fact that in the '90s you had not only Sorbo's show, but you had the animated versions, and then the movies that spun off from there.
Oh yeah, and then if you go back in the '90s, if you look at the popularity of Hercules in that series, and I mean, this was a very popular series because it wasn't just popular in the States; it was popular internationally.
Right.
It was popular enough that it got the spinoff with Xena Warrior Princess. And if you look, okay, in the '90s, Hercules is popular based on that show. All right, Marvel Comics has their own version of Hercules. What did they do with the character? Not much, if anything.
I know, definitely much with that. Well, I mean, it's now in Marvel Comics, you see that they are doubling down on gods, right? So in Moon Knight, it's all about the Egyptian pantheon there, right? Uh, Getting more and more in there. And of course,
Nobody cares about those gods.
I know it's pretty confusing, but they're becoming more and more prominent. Before, no one could say anything about it, but now, with the Moon Knight show, the Moonlight comics, more and more people are saying,
Nobody cares about those gods. One, most people don't understand Egyptian mythology anyway, because when they read Egyptian mythology, they're thinking it's going to do stuff like Greek or Norse mythology, and it doesn't. So they're like, "Hey, this stuff is kind of weird. This is kind of weird. This is kind of weird." But again, Hercules, Thor, this is coming out of the West. This is Western mythology. That isn't. So nobody really cares about that type of stuff. The big thing is that, and I'll say this again, no one has done the 12 labors of Hercules, meaning we're just going to focus on those 12 labors. He's going to fight the lion, the Nemean lion, then he's going to fight the Lemurian Hydra, and not just for bit pieces. Like, no, this is going to be the film. Okay, we're going to do a series. Either we do a TV series, and he's going to do X number of labors. Like, really focus on that, because that's still, if you wanted to have like, okay, I'm going to have ownership, that's what you have to do. They touch on it where they do a little bit of each, that type of stuff, or they'll try to do. Oh my goodness, I've seen some stuff where in the film they didn't even want to make Hercules the son of Zeus. They wanted to say he was like the son of, because they all try to do something different with it. And nobody's just said, hey, why don't we just do the 12 labors? Nobody's really done that. Even the Steve Reeves stuff, didn't do that. So like, why don't we do it? Well, okay. He has a scene where he kills his wife and children. He has to expiate, the sin. He's told he has to do these 12 labors. And then we see him going, prepping, and completing each one of these 12 labors. That is, if you liked Harry Potter, if you liked Lord of the Rings, that right there is something these guys should be jumping at. And there's enough room in there to tell some, to really get some story out. And I guess it's just too big for them to undertake. They're like, huh? What? No, 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 we can't do that. That's too big. Let's just stick with Harry Potter and play Quidditch. Let's just play Quidditch. We'll
well,
just do that.
so probably instead of us pitching ourselves as writers to the new Marvel, probably we should go to Disney and say, hey, we have a movie idea, or a TV show, a limited series idea to be the showrunners. We'll be the next Game of Thrones. Probably should go to Warner Brothers. They'll give us $150 million to run it.
I don't think so.
Well, hey, well, it was great talking to you about this subject. It's something that I thought that a lot of people may be interested in. But hey, any closing thoughts, Cal, before we close it out?
All you Hercules fans out there, I'm with you. I feel your pain. I am a very big fan of Greek mythology with the specialization in Hercules. And I would love to see the character have more light, but I am also very sensible as to how these things work. If it's me and you put me in charge of Marvel and they're like, okay, I'm going to bring Hercules to the forefront, well, how much can I do without Xing out Thor? And Thor's already one of our top tier characters. So and then it becomes, all right, what role do I put Hercules in that Thor can't fill? And to be quite honest, there's pretty much nothing that Hercules can do that Thor couldn't do as well, because they're both gods. They're pretty much both gods of strength. The best thing that I can do is come up with good stories for Hercules. But if I come to it like, hey, I'm going to try to put him on the same level, it's very hard for me to do that without diminishing the other character. So we have to understand this as much as we love Hercules. However, there's still plenty of stuff that you can do with Hercules, and he's a very entertaining character. Look at his track record. Thor, 4 movies. Hercules, over 30 movies. Over 30 movies, TV series, appearances. People love this guy. Okay, so just be patient. Just be patient.
You know,
Herc will get his chance.
I was going to end, but I had one question though about Hercules versus Thor, in that, you know, Thor is thought that Thor would eventually succeed Odin, and we see in some of the comic versions that he does succeed Odin, but you never get that for Hercules. Hercules is always just one of the brothers, you know, if he's raised high enough, he will never succeed Zeus.
No, they've had they've had the storylines in Marvel Comics where he does become
Oh,
king of the gods of Olympus. I
oh,
think the second limited series that he had, uh, it was done ostensibly with Zeus being angry and killing the gods, but it was really just to set Hercules up as the new king of the gods. So they've touched on that before, making Hercules the king of the Olympian pantheon. But again, do you want Hercules to be the king of the Olympian pantheon, or do you want Hercules to be on adventures, getting into fights, you know, chasing girls, or which one do you want him to be? And most people would rather the latter when it comes to Hercules.
yeah, I got that.
Yeah. And then the other thing, one thing I'll say is, anybody who starts doing this nonsense where they're like, "Oh no, his real name is Heracles." Oh, just shut up. We know who we're talking
Oh
about,
my
okay?
gosh, yeah, let's not do that.
Okay, we know who we're talking about. His real name is Alcides. That's what he's born as, and then he becomes Heracles, Hera's fame, and then Hercules over time. We know who we're talking about. It's like Jesus. You can say Jesus, you can say Yeshua. We know who we're talking about.
I mean, I don't think anybody's that group of
We
people
we
is
don't need we don't need we don't need some precision. It's not like me and you where, hey, no, 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 that's not my name. No, we know who we're talking about here.
all right, cool then. Well, thanks for the enjoyable discussion. Spinnerack,
We're out.
we are out.